Pastor Brother Isaac David Brugman with the Sign of the Times. Well, I want to talk about on the first episode is that isn't it crazy how people will take and judge you by when you go outside your door to go like where I live. Okay, I live in an apartment. I'll just be blunt with it because there's no need to be ashamed of it. Okay, I walk outside. I walked out. It was actually it'd been nights. I walked outside and would be out in the open where anybody could see me walking from my place to the mailbox because maybe I was in a hurry to go somewhere that day and I didn't have time to check my mail. So I checked the mail when I got back. Well, the point to the story is I would do this, and next thing I know, it's like, I don't know. Hold on here, folks. I had to correct something that happened between, let's just say, I thought I sent a text out, and apparently the text didn't go through, and so I had to retext the person and basically explain to them I'm sorry if they didn't hear from me. I should have called, but I like texting sometimes because sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. But anyway, let's get back where I was. What I'm trying to say, folks, is that there's been nights I like say in the daytime I was having to go somewhere and I was in a hurry, so I'd end up coming back from wherever I had been that day, and I'd go check the mail. Maybe I'd decide I just wanted to go home and park and then walk to the mailbox. Well, it wasn't that far. I mean, it's like one of those everybody mailboxes. You got your own little box. They got their own little box. They're all together. Anyway, I would go by and they'd be neighbors saw me, so they just at like got to go check see who the person is. He might be a bad guy or it's getting so bad, my friends and family and neighbors, where we can't even go outside without being freaking out because we think the booger man's gonna get us. I'm gonna tell you, folks, I've lived in this world for how many years? I don't see what the point is of getting so scared like that. That's about like you have somebody that say, okay, I live in one town and go to church in another. That's because I still go to the same church I was going to when I lived in a little country town or that I lived in when I grew up. And then when I moved to the largest town in this county, I still went to that church. It wasn't that far from where I live in this town anyway. So I go to church one night and there was a guy we knew of there that locked his keys up in his vehicle. Someone picked him up and then I started to leave. Well, they got back before I left. Well, I went on and left. Well, it looked as if someone from that town, my hometown, followed me all the way to the largest town in that county. And then I was freaking out because I was like, they looked like they were dimming their lights, brightening their lights. I was freaking out. So then I was praying and hoping it wasn't someone coming after me. Well, next thing I know, they turned off at a certain point, but they followed me almost all the way. Freaked me out. Now, that does not mean that they were after me. It just means that sometimes when you see things, your mind starts playing games with you. And that's how life is anymore with this stuff. And there are going to be times I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it like this. Do it like I'm doing it now on this kind of a platform. But also, I've noticed, folks, why do we sit there and hear a man talk to us about God and Jesus, but when we know that God is trying to talk to us, we don't listen to what God is saying? God has told us up and down what to do, and we don't listen. I've known people to complain to me because I tried to tell them about God, and they didn't want to hear what I had to say about God. They'd rather live in sin than listen to what God had to tell them. But then again, that's probably why people like Pharaoh act like he did towards Moses, because he didn't want to admit that Moses had a point there and that God was the one that they should have been listening to start with. But anyway, where I'm going here is this, on this episode of Signs of the Times, or Sign of the Times, I've done learned something. When you get to the point to where you're like, hey, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I saying what I'm saying? Well, you come to the conclusion that what we're doing right now with our ups and downs and ins and outs is that we're living in a world of, we get paranoid too much. Whether it be a thick paranoia or a light paranoia, it's still there, and it freaks people out because they don't know what they're dealing with. They don't know, they're afraid of the unknown. This person could or could not be someone to hurt you. I've seen folks turn down a good new friend because that fear was so thick in their body, so thick in their mind, till they just thought, this man's coming to get me, and they're freaking out. But we know if we got God on our side, why do we need to worry? I think that the people that lash out at you because you talked about God to them, I think they lashed out because they're scared. They're scared of the unknown. They don't know what their life's going to be like if they turn to God. Yes, they know it can be better, but what kind of better will they have? They know they won't have all that stuff they got with Satan. I mean, so why fear? Basically, that's what is going on right now. Fear of all kind of things. If God is on your side, you shouldn't fear. But too many people fear because they don't understand. I'm going to tell you something. Why is it that we get scared so bad we talk about stuff we don't know about, and we'll sit there and talk about it till we're blue in the face? But I tell you, folks, fear consumes a lot of people's lives. You should have stage fright about singing, but you get up there and sing anyway. If you're singing gospel music in a church or in a choir or in a quartet or in a single deal where you're singing by yourself professionally, yes, those things should make you a little nervous, because it proves if you are nervous to get up there and do it, but you do it anyway, that means you got God on your side. You're with God and you're for God, and God gave you that fear to say push through it and go on and sing. I've known people have microphonophobia, I call it, but they're not scared of the microphone itself. They're scared of the getting up close to the microphone, so the up closeness with the microphone, being so close. They wouldn't mind singing in a microphone, but from a distance. Now, how you do that, I don't know. But they want to, and they don't want to talk about it. Like, I don't want to get in front of the microphone, no, because they're nervous. If they would stop being so nervous, they'd see more good happening in their life, less bad. But I think, and how about the one where you're scared to talk to people about the truth? You know what? If you're older than some folks, and those folks are picking on you, look at them and say, look, it's like saying you should tell your children, if they are trying to bully you into doing for them, then overcome your fear and say, look, God put you on this earth to be born inside of me. So if God gave you to me for me to bear you in my womb, then don't you think that God could snap his fingers and you be out of here in no time flat? So you know what? God is giving you life. So why don't you give your life to God? That's all you got to do. But see, If more people stand up to their kids like that, they wouldn't get bullied around so much. I'm not blaming nobody. I'm not blaming you. I'm not blaming you. Kids are rough these days, and they scare you too much. Some of these bully kids these days scare you too much. They're too scary, and it's hard to tell them no when they're your own child because you love them so much. You just want to do for them. But you got to lay the hammer down and say, I got to lay the hammer down in the name of the Lord. No! No more of this mess. You can't keep on this stuff because that route's going to get you into hell if you keep on trying to make me give you money. Try to make me do something for you that I don't even need to do for you anyway. Make me. How in the world are you trying to make me do this? Well, knowing good and well, you ain't got no life. You ain't got no rights. You're just sitting there telling me, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that to you. You know what? If I'm older than you, and you're my child, if I have a child, then you know what? I would tell you, look, when I was young and was your father, and when you were young and was my younger child, you're my older child now. So when you were my young child and I was your young father, back then it was easy to say, if you do your chores, I'll give you some money. But when you get to the point where you take that and flip it around and start saying, oh, Dad, you need to give me money all the time for this and that and the other. Look, I ain't giving you no money for nothing if you don't deserve that money. I'm going to tell you something. Why do we do this stuff? I think we do this stuff because we don't have enough guts to stand up to these people and tell them, no, we can't be having these problems. I tell you, it's getting to the point now where there's a lot of kids going to prisons and jails because they do stupid stuff, and yet a lot of their family members or friends are so scared of them when they get out that they just won't say no. They're afraid that they'll lash out at them and, oh, I'm gonna do this to you. I'm gonna do that to you. You know what? If you got a child and he's trying to tell you or she's trying to tell you what they're gonna do to you, that right there tells me, you know what? You need to get a better relationship with that child. Or kick that child to the curb. Say, child, you're not nothing to me anymore. You got to deal with God because God done told you over and over what to do and you don't listen. Well, the point I was making was it's getting rough these days when fear takes over our lives and lets us be so scared we can't do nothing. Well, this is Pastor Brother Isaac David Bregman with the Sign of the Times, and I want y'all to ponder on what I've been saying lately when I do all my shows here. One is not actually a show, it's a church service. This is a show, but listen carefully to everything I say. Well, God bless you and have a nice night, or day, or whatever time you're listening.